This episode was sponsored by Property, the leading real estate agent for all real estate transactions with a comprehensive ecosystem. They combine highly trained experts with the latest technologies on an intelligent platform to provide clients, brokers, and service partners with risk-free, flexible, and simplified services. Learn more at property.com. That's property with an I.com.
Do we want to go public with all of it? Yes, no. And it was, for us, it was super clear. Yes, of course, we will do that. Because we thought that transparency and open communication was always one of the key mantras at Yamo. So we felt like if things also don't go right, we need to talk about it. And also for the ecosystem in the end, it's important to just be clear. Look, this is what happened. And yeah, it's super, super bad. And yeah, we do the best in this situation.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Merle.
I'm sitting here today with Tobias, former CEO and co-founder of Yamo. And Tobias has been with us a couple of times actually already. The first episode we did together in 2021. So Tobias, I'm very happy that you're here again to talk to us about the story of Yamo and how's it been? What's been going on the last 5 years?
Thank you very much, Merle. Great to be here again after quite a long time, actually. I used to feel like a regular in the early days. Yeah, last couple of months have been quite a ride.
Yeah, I bet. And I'm happy to dive into that as well, that we can talk about it. So we want to talk with you about what happened with Yamo, what you've learned, and also what's next. But I want to start a little bit at the beginning because I'm sure we also have people listening in that don't know the story yet. So maybe you can take us back in time when Yamo was founded in 2016. Tell us, how did you and your co-founders, Luca and Jose, came to care about baby food?
Yeah, that was an interesting story. So back then in 2015, I was still working at Campari, one of the largest liquor brands. And I worked together with Luca for approximately 3 years. So we were co-workers. Jose, I knew for back then probably already 15 years because his younger brother is my younger brother's best friend.
Oh, wow.
So we grew up relatively close to each other. And then I would say we just stumbled into the whole thing. So Luca and me were working there. We were talking about business ideas. And it was this time where I think Uber started to become really big. And, all of these things happened. Not really in Switzerland, though, at least not in our ecosystem. And eventually we kind of came about this industry of baby food where Luca and me, we did this vegan month where we ate vegan for a month and it was a challenge. We just wanted to see if we would make it or not. Where we had our old office, there was just a gas station and a McDonald's to get lunch from. So we always had this gas station lunch, which is spaghetti bolognese for the microwave and things like that. And so I read this newspaper article where it said that models, when they get in shape for their next runway show, they would eat baby food, these jarred baby food, because they have a very few calories and they're healthy and such. And I was like, okay, what's great for models is great for us. So let's go for it. We went to the shop, looked at the products, and I've never really in my life was in touch with baby food. So I didn't understand why the products were so old. I mean, they were shelf stable for years. They all look the same. So I said to Luca, hey, I got this friend. He's a food scientist. His name is Jose. I will call him and I will ask him. So I called Jose. Hey, you got to help me. What's up with those products? And he said, this industry has not changed in 50 years. It will probably never change, even though there is a technology that would allow you to do it very differently. And he specialized on this technology, this very innovative technology called high pressure pasteurization, which is a cold pressure pasteurization method. While as traditionally baby food was always heat sterilized, which means it is treated with a lot of heat. The heat destroys vitamins, also the bad stuff, but also the vitamins. And this novel technology that Jose was familiar with did not destroy the vitamins. So we really started digging into that industry. We looked at everything. I told all of my friends and family about this idea of we could revolutionize baby food. This is, nobody's been doing anything in that space, and parents really demand it, and parents deserve it. And all of my friends and family said, that's a really stupid idea. I remember still, Jose's professors at university, they all told him, it's impossible to do this. And then we said, okay, let's do it. So we founded the company, got going like really into the blue.
Yeah.
Really, really, really greenhornish.
Yeah.
Just did it.
I love that. The gas station backstory.
Yeah. It's 3.5 years lunch at the gas station. That was tremendous.
It's a trauma that you wanted to work against.
Kind of.
But it's super interesting. The baby food industry is huge, right?
It is.
It's
like a 9 billion market in Europe. Yeah.
That is also a very competitive market to step into.
It is competitive. However, there's actually just around 3 really dominant players.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting market because they're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I still believe it's a very interesting market.
Yeah. And you wanted to disrupt it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I really like to eat myself. I like to cook. Also, my 2 co-founders back then, we were all 3, we were foodies, or still are. We just could not understand why was baby food older than the kids eating it. Because that's essentially it. The baby food, baby food is older than the baby eating it.
Yeah.
We had this urge of, this needs to change. We were all 3, we were not dads.
Mm-hmm.
This is, on the one side, it's kind of odd because it was not really our problem. But then on the other side, I think it also allowed us to look at the whole thing from afar and be unbiased and ask these very stupid questions. I love doing this. I love feeling stupid because it's like, that's when you get to the core of things. You ask like, why? Okay, but why? But why? And then you keep on asking why. And this is this first principle thinking, I think.
And you get to the bottom of
exactly
things. Yeah. Looking back at the time, do you think like 2016 it was the right time to go into that industry?
I'm not sure about the industry. The industry, I think there's different aspects to it. So the industry as such, yes, I think the right time. But there's 2 more things. One is customers, and I'm predominantly talking about retail customers, like large retailers. And the second thing is also the way how to market. So talking about retail customers, I would say that we were early, like really early. We had to do a lot of explaining, but we also got inbound, and that's actually how our 2 first retail deals happened. They were both inbound. So both Coop in Switzerland and DM in Germany, they came to us because they said, that's actually something really novel. We have not seen this before. Can we talk? But still, it was a big, big challenge for us then throughout the history of the company to build and scale this in retail, because it was very different. I can maybe get to that later, but the whole thing, the products were fresh. So you need to have a fresh product in a space in the store where there's normally no fridge. And the last thing why I think timing was good, but still could have been even better, the whole Instagram influencer, how to market such direct-to-consumer new challenger brands. I think 2 years earlier would have been even better, because in 2000 or maybe 2013 even, it was still super inexpensive to do influencer marketing because this did not really exist. So you would just give people, I don't know, a bit of free goods, and even though they had hundreds of thousands of followers, they would actually work with you. And I think that was a kind of a golden time to really start. And also when you look at the really big D2C companies in the US, like Dollar Shave Club or Honest from Jessica Alba, they all sprung out of that in that moment of time.
It's true.
In Germany, there was, for example, Food Spring. They also started. Was a perfect time, I think. We were already a little bit late when it comes to the Instagram influencer marketing topic, because then it already was starting to get expensive. But yeah, just.
You just mentioned also the 2 sales streams that you had, B2B and B2C.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about the benefits and also the difficulties of doing so?
Absolutely. So we started with D2C only because we felt that, first of all, we thought retail would never take us because we would be, not interesting for them and also too complicated because of the fresh products. And second, we also felt that we need to build like this loving community of parents that really want this brand, and that we could only achieve through direct relationships with them through our own website. So that's why we started D2C. Even though there was, of course, a ton of challenges, like our products were fresh, so we had to also ship D2C fresh, which we had to invent everything ourselves. There was no solution that was just off the shelf that could work for us. We tried them all. So D2C is great because it allows you to learn a lot from your customers. You are in direct contact, but it is also, it's not... People sometimes thought back then, it's so inexpensive. It's super cheap to do D2C, but it's not the case. Especially not when you are trying to sell a product that is usually not sold online.
Yeah.
I think there's products that are always sold online, like for example, electronic goods. There it is the hurdle for a customer to just buy I don't know, I have a microphone in front of me. So a microphone online is very low, but buying fresh food online was potentially very novel. So you need to overcome that hurdle. D2C still, I believe it can work very well for certain products and categories. And for others, it's just a matter also of understanding your margins very well, because it is not cheap. Retail is also not cheap. Retail, you have, in the end, you have to pay the rent to somebody. And either you pay the rent to Coop or Migros to be on shelf, like rent in terms of what they ask as a margin for them, or you pay rent to Meta or Google or I don't know whom, TikTok, plus the shipping companies.
Yeah.
So somebody you have to pay.
Yeah. How many people were you at that point?
In the very early days, it was just 3 of us. And then like first 1.5 years from idea phase to actual go live, it was more or less us. And then we started hiring people.
Yeah.
Then we were 3-4 people. And then we grew relatively rapidly. I think peak end of 2022, I think we were around about 50 people.
Yeah, because just looking at the business model was super complex. You also had the subscription model, online shop, then the retail. It must be like so many.
Yeah, and the thing is that that's actually one of my major learnings throughout that whole experience was that if you're competing in consumer packaged goods, you're competing against the largest companies on this planet.
Yeah.
And when you look at the food market or the food market in the world, like consumer packaged food, it's more or less 8 companies that divide the market amongst themselves. It's the Nestle's and Danone's and General Mills's of this world. When you ask yourself, why is it only 8? I can tell you why. It's because they have built, and people always ask, what's your moat? What's your moat in your business? The moat is that they have built over decades, they have built infrastructure, both physical and digital infrastructure and distribution that you cannot just like that break into.
Yeah.
It's like I told back then in Yamo, I always told the team, this is this Chinese wall that Nestle and all of these companies have built over time. The Chinese wall is called, I can just call Coop and bring every product in shelf immediately. I have all the logistics set up. I have all the raw material suppliers. I have all the marketing power. I have all, it's all there. But it took them ages to build this. But as a startup in the consumer packaged goods space, you need to overcome this Chinese wall. And you need to build a ladder to climb over that wall. And it takes time. Is costly. You need to think differently, very differently, because you cannot compete with resources with these behemoths. So yeah, that's in the end, I would say that that's what I have really underestimated also, because again, there is a reason why it's only 8 companies.
And what about the regulations? Because I can imagine food is probably highly regulated.
Yeah.
Maybe specifically in Switzerland. What was that like for you? I mean, I just like picture yourself starting Googling. You're like, oh, God damn, there's so many regulations we need to work with.
Yeah, I think that there is, I would say probably for the good, I guess.
Yes.
That was specifically, it was José's domain. He worked a lot together also with his former profs, you know, kind of to navigate all of these regulations. He did a very good job on that. And then later on, I think what we learned is that also all of your partners, they also have a lot of knowledge, because you have, for example, let's say a law firm that works with you and they know something about advertising claims, what you can say and what you cannot say, because there we also had some couple of issues. And then your manufacturing partners, because they already have produced other similar products and they know what to do and what to not. So there's always a net of people that you can ask. Yep. I think what we should never do, and that's, I think, something that we did well, we as founders, we never thought we need to make every mistake ourselves. I mean, don't get me wrong, we did a ton of mistakes, but I think that's also part of the journey. But we had this very, very clear from the get-go idea that for every problem, there is somebody out there that has faced this problem, the exact same problem before. We just need to find this person and ask this person, how did you manage? Yeah. Because there is no need to make every mistake yourself.
And rely on the network that you have. Or
in the beginning, you have zero. But I think it really goes quickly when you start, but you need to also branch out, because otherwise your network will not grow.
And did you actually produce the food within Switzerland?
In the beginning, yeah. So I think probably for the first 2-3 years, we produced in Switzerland, which at some point just became too expensive, because the majority of products were sold in the European Union and mainly Germany. And we were not able to produce in Switzerland and sell in Germany, because we had different prices in Germany that were adapted to the market. And then we could not work it out. So we had to move to production, or had to find another production partner in Germany.
And talking about also, you just said like about costs and everything. In the Series A, you raised 10 million, around 10 million, I think.
Yeah, most with VCs, 97% VC.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a couple of angels in the early days. Like in our very first round was an angel round. Still, I mean, to this day, it's so thankful for these people, because they enabled a lot what came afterwards. And they were all former or still entrepreneurs, or former entrepreneurs that exited their companies. And then later on, we really raised then from early VCs, and early growth, and
Can you, because you just said you were really thankful also of the angel investors that you had, in what way did you make use of that, or what would you also tell to our listeners what to look out for in angel investors that you have, that you need?
Yeah, it's now it's 2025, so 8 years ago I had no idea what investors. I mean, I know what the word investment means, but I had no idea about startup investing and anything like that. I had this friend Laurent. He founded a company, Movu, marketplace for moving companies and people that want to move. So I had another friend, Hannes, and he worked at Movu as a CMO. So we got in touch, and when Luca, Jose, and me, we had the idea for Yamo, we were invited to Movu's office, because they had this, I don't know how they were calling, I think drinks and lunch or something like that. And they always invited people from the startup ecosystem. So we were there and we told the Movu staff about our idea. And the idea was that you just, get like exciting topics to talk about. And we were quite grilled a bit, by the Movu staff. And then from there on, I kind of kept in contact with Laurent, and I always asked him things like, hey, look, I'm now figuring out this and that. How would you do it? And then at some point he said, look, we once you actually want to raise money, I could imagine investing maybe, and maybe also I know some people. So I never really had to look for these first investors. They kind of came to me, but they came through me because I first seek their advice. But I never had the intention, because back then they still were running Movu. So, and I never had the intention of, I need a business angel, because I did not even know what it is.
Yep.
So to your question, I think life is serendipitous. And sometimes things just happen. Of course, I could have just looked for business angel. I mean, that's probably the more normal way. But especially the Swiss ecosystem is so small, where everybody knows everybody. So once you get the hang of somebody, you most likely will talk to other people that are also in this angel investor kind of circle. And people are very, very helpful. I would say most people that I met here in Switzerland in the angel network are really helpful, because they all want to grow the ecosystem. Of course, there's also sometimes, I would say, semi-predatory people, but those I would say are not really the angel investors that I would want to work with. But also I would not say they're the best, The best are great guys.
Yep.
And girls.
Yeah. So it's really like a supporting network.
It is. Yeah. Because all of these people have been through the same thing.
Yeah.
And they know exactly what it takes, and they know how gruesome it is to build a company, how great it is. So they know the ins and outs. And that's in the end what I think what is the biggest benefit of angel investors. Of course, money, you need the money as well, but the knowledge, the experience, the sharing, the network, that is invaluable.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said also earlier, that they have been through these things, and they can tell you, like, look, this is what it did to us, or we went through this and this is what happened.
Yeah.
You have this knowledge now, you decide which way you want to go.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes you listen.
And sometimes you don't.
Things work out. Sometimes you don't listen. Things don't. It's probably like with parents.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just want to make the mistake yourself, and that's fine.
Exactly, which I think is also okay.
Yeah.
Because also afterwards, when you run the company as a leader of the company, you cannot always interfere with decisions of your team.
Yeah.
Of course, and it's something that I found hard, because when you run a company for 3, 4, 5 years, you really kind of, I would say in most cases, if something is a good decision or not. Of course, not for everything, but with, like, for example, hiring. You develop this gut feeling of, will this person work out, yes or no?
Yeah.
At the beginning, I tried to rationalize everything and make everything quantifiable, and we have to build this grid, and then we know if we want to hire this person, yes or no. At some point, I was just like, I don't think this person will work out. But then, do you tell the hiring manager that this new person actually reports to? Do you tell this person, look, we're not going to hire this person because I feel, I have it in my guts that this will not work out? It's very difficult, because you need to let people make their own mistakes. Because I felt like my style of leadership was always very empowering. But then again, sometimes you let people make mistakes that then have very grief consequences that will take you a month to 3 to fix. And then you really can't let the people make the mistakes. And this is a difficult balance act.
Yeah.
But I guess that's goes for everybody, I guess.
Yeah. I think also on the one hand, it's healthy to have this mindset of, look, this is my opinion, but I'm happy to be taught better.
Yeah.
And I think that's also healthy, and that is also empowering.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, or it does work out, then either person will have a learning out of it.
Yeah. I think even though there's people that would disagree with me on that, but I still believe that strong opinions loosely held is a very good approach to things. Where I think as a leader, particularly as a founder and founder CEO, people demand it, and I think it's absolutely key that you have a clear vision, that you know where you want to take this. And this is a strong opinion. The way to get there is very difficult. I mean, sometimes it's a highway and sometimes it is like a dirt road. And of course, you might have an opinion first, but then you need to also be flexible to adapt it. So I think this combination, I still believe it is the right way to think about building.
Do you want to walk us through the journey that happened then? So you had the angel investors, you had your first round that you raised, and then can you walk us through the next steps, what happened, and at what point you noticed, okay, now we're getting into a crucial part, maybe, I don't know, milestones were not reached, that we have an understanding of the journey?
So I think we were the prototype of a startup in that way, because we raised an angel round, and then you raised from first early venture capital investors like David Hook from Ringe Digital Ventures was the very first that believed in us, and Yannick from Backbone and all of these people. And that was just, it was really cool because we could just keep on building. You know, we raced around and then we internationalized and we created new products and we ramped up the team and we started going into retail. And don't get me wrong, I mean, the whole thing was super tough because every single week we had dozens of topics that at first seemed impossible to solve. But I think what was very important for us is that we had this mindset at Yamo, and this is also something that we, the founders, we try to instill with the people, is there is almost nothing that is unsolvable. The only things that are unsolvable are things that are against the law of physics. But everything else, there is a solution. We just, sometimes we need to work harder, we need to be smarter, we need to, I don't know. But there is no such thing as we give up and we never take no for an answer. And that was really, it was some of the core principles how we ran Yamo. And over time, we then raised larger rounds, raised from all sorts of investors. So we had, in the end, I think our cap table was also, that was very similar to many startups. It was angels, it was VCs, it was family offices. So we had everything. And all of them have different pros and cons, or also strengths. And that is, I always felt like we were very lucky, because we were able to tap into so much different knowledge pools and also network pools that were really helpful building the company. But it also was, at some point, it became a big part of my daily doing was stakeholder management. But which is also, I think, is normal to a certain degree when you have raised certain amounts of money. It just comes with it. There's accountability, and I always wanted to make it right for people, because I felt like I was handed this money to make something with it, which is the case. And as a founder, I think as an ambitious founder, you put a lot of pressure on your shoulders anyway, because you have all of these people, the employees, that you have to pay their salaries every month, which is, that's what they owe, what you owe them. But you also need to make right by your investors, and it's a lot.
And at what point did you realize maybe that Yamo no longer had legs to stand on?
I think the point was only when we had our board meeting in April of 24, where we knew that there was a deadline. Deadline of, do we have all of the committed capital needed to go for the next step or not? And this deadline was clear for a couple of months. So in the end, we were there, and I had 2/3 of the capital that we needed. I had committed. 1/3 was missing, and it was just it was impossible for me to find the money. Of course, I mean, also circumstances were really bad. It's still, fundraising to this day is still quite difficult. Back then, it was really, really bad. Everybody was struggling, and fair enough. I mean, we in the end, I think if you have a certain plan and you commit to that plan, but you need a certain amount of capital to execute that plan, then it probably does also not make sense to not go ahead if you do not have the capital need for that plan, because you already have looked at all different plans, So in our case, it was then we had a board meeting and it was 8:30 in the morning on a Friday. And the first question was, have you found the last third? And I said, no. And then he said, okay, well, that's shut down then. Which, I mean, sounds now very...
like doomsday.
Yeah. But, in the end, everybody sitting in the room knows, of course, that this is a possibility, but still, it's the worst.
Yeah, when the words are actually
Exactly.
spoken.
I remember it still very well to this day. And I know when I closed the call, I was just sitting there. I was like, wow, it was like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. How do you, as a leader, then set priorities and focus on what is relevant?
If I do something, I always do it with 100% and not less. So I knew exactly in that moment, the next couple of days will be crucial. First and foremost for the employees. Second, for all of the shareholders. And third, then also for me and for my future to a certain degree. So what we did then is I called the whole management Friday afternoon. I mean, we were all in the office anyway. Then I informed the management. That was very tough because we had people in that management that were with us basically from day one. So they have seen everything, that was very tough. And then I said, look, it is how it is. But what is important now is that we have a very clear plan on how to go forward. We have a couple of days now to work on that. And then we basically work throughout the weekend on a schedule for the upcoming days, who to inform when. It was never it's not my work ethos to just say, well, okay, didn't work out, goodbye. You can find me on the beach, or please don't come looking,
Yeah.
Because we had customers, we had manufacturers, we had all of these partners. So we created this plan, who to inform when. We split the work amongst the different management members. A ton of partners I called myself immediately, or on that day, or on Monday, I'm not sure anymore. I called them because we worked with them for so long, lawyers and such. And I called them and said, look, this is what happened. And yeah, people were really, really sympathetic. Generally, but this may be something we can talk about later. Generally, I would say that people are super sympathetic in such a moment of time. And then we informed the team because it was April and it was a very nice weekend. And so we decided with the management on Friday afternoon, like the weather was very nice. And we said we will not inform the team now because let's just have them the weekend and then we'll do it next week. Yeah, and then I created this whole speech and everything, and then on Tuesday morning, I think I gathered everyone in the office, so we were all there, did it in person. That's also something. It was really the yamo, like being together, and then inform people. That was really sad. Yeah.
I can imagine also, like, psychologically for you and for the others, that must have been really heavy.
It is. It is. But I think also there, as a leader, first of all, it's on you. Second, if you're not strong, then, who can people lean on? This is also a difficult thing because you always need to be strong. Of course, you can sometimes, in smaller circles, I would say, show weakness, and also, but in such moments, you need to be there like a rock, in my opinion, because people look to you for answers, and you cannot be wishy-washy in such a crucial moment.
Hey, Swisspreneur listeners, did you know we have a monthly newsletter? That's right. On the first Friday of every month, we send out a digest with all the news developments of the Swiss startup scene. From upcoming events to growth hacks and free resources to community stories and recent funding rounds. Click the link in the show notes to subscribe. You won't regret it.
How do you differentiate at that time between you as a person, Toby, and the CEO and the company? Because, you're so intertwined, of course, with that idea, with you as a leader.
Yeah.
How do you shield yourself, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know. If you find a way, let me know, because I was never really able to.
Yeah.
I was not good in balancing it. And it's also something that I would do differently. For example, I started coaching way too late, or like being coached. I should have started this almost from day one, but I have not. Interesting enough, all the founders that I talked to when I want to start coaching, that already were in coachings, I asked them, and they all said the same thing. So that kind of was good to hear. But still, I think there's something many founders struggle with is finding balance. And I'm not talking about work-life balance. It's not it. It's about finding balance of exactly what you just mentioned, of the CEO person, the people, the person running the show and needing to take tough decisions and so on, but also still, your normal you that can maybe relax at some hours.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Logistically speaking, what happened after you informed the team, you informed the partners and the stakeholders?
First, we informed, or I informed the whole company. I was there with everybody. And then I told everyone that now what I will do next is I will go to the administrator, or actually to the court, that is, to the Kantonsgericht, to deposit our balance sheet. That's what you have to do. And for that, you just take your balance sheet with you and print it. I had a letter of our board, like we would like to deposit our balance sheet, and then you go there, and I mean, this is all surreal,
Yeah,
you
I can imagine.
And I told everyone, like, okay, so I informed you now and everything, and we will do this, and this next. But what I will do first now is I will go over there and deposit the balance sheet. So I did that, and then you come back, and then very early, I think maybe 2 hours later, so I was called. Yeah, we will send people now to your office from the administrator, because then first the judge needs to rule the insolvency is now declared or whatever, and then the administrator will come to your office. And then they came on the next day, on Wednesday, and they're like, so we're going to send everybody home now. And it's like, what? Why? Yeah, that's what we do, people cannot work here anymore, so we need to close the office and nobody can take anything, which I understand, of course, but we're going to send everybody home now. And I said, yeah, but we work together for years.
Yeah.
Some of us, you cannot just send us home. Yeah, we can. So then I went into the meeting room together, I think with our CFO back then. We started having conversation with the administrator, and then they asked us, so for how long have you not been paying salaries? And I was like, what? It's the 5th of April. We just paid salaries until March. Oh, okay. So for how long have you not been paying social insurance money? I was like, so it's the 5th of April. We actually already prorated April and prepaid that because we wanted to just have everything safe. And she's like, what? Okay, that's not how we usually get. That's not how
the situation we usually come into.
Exactly. And I was like, okay, so what is in the situation that you usually come to? It's like, usually people come to us. They say, here's like a micro bag, the printed paper inside. Those are my finances. Goodbye. And they're gone. And it was like, yeah, that's not really how we want to work or how we do things. And then we had this conversation with them, and then they have all of these questions. And at some point they said, like, okay, but this seems just to be very unfortunate, but you seem to have run the business professionally. And it's like, yeah, and could we now still stay together and say, look, I give you until this afternoon, I don't know, 3:30 or something, you can still stay here, but then everybody needs to leave. So then the administrator left, and then what we did is we had those large tables. So we gathered everybody around the tables, and then what we did is, together with the whole team, we started filling out all of the formalities for every single person to then later on be able to claim unemployment money and all of these things. Because in Yamo, I would say almost half of the people were not Swiss. So they were from everywhere but Switzerland. And I felt like this is my most important obligation right now, is to help people navigate this situation? And I also had no clue. Then the people from administrator came back and they were very helpful because we had a ton of questions, because all of these you would not understand it. I mean, I would say I'm average intelligent and I can read German, but the material that you receive is not simple to understand.
Yeah.
And that's also, I think, in general, it was an interesting learning from my side. Like, how must it be if you're having your small KMU, you're not originally Swiss, and something happens that is not going well? It is difficult. And then we did that all together with everybody. We hugged each other, we said goodbye, and then we closed the door. That was it.
And you also never set foot back into the office?
No, I was not. I could not, because as of that moment, you're not in charge anymore, because then the company is not run by you anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It sounds like crazy. I think you've seen so many things.
Yeah.
And learned so many things that some people will never experience.
Some of those things I hope nobody will experience. But no, I mean, of course, running a startup or building a startup from zero and then back to zero is an unbelievable experience. I mean, there's so many things that you learn. There's so many things that you would not even know that you could learn them, you know?
That could happen.
Exactly.
You would come to that point.
Because they are just thrown at you.
Yeah. You said before you received a lot of sympathy also, and people were very supportive. What was that like? What kind of people were you maybe also surprised to get support from?
So we discussed this briefly, like in the team. Do we want to go public with all of it? Yes, no. And it was, for us, it was super clear. Yes, of course we will do that, because we thought that transparency and open communication was always one of the key mantras at Yamo. So we felt like if things also don't go right, we need to talk about it. And also for the ecosystem, in the end, it's important to just be clear. Look, this is what happened, and it's super, super bad. But we do the best in this situation. So we went public I did a relatively lengthy LinkedIn post. Back then, it was just a couple of days after things actually really ended, maybe 2 days after or something. And from then onwards, it was crazy. I received about 100 messages, either through LinkedIn. People called me straight up, sent me an email or WhatsApp. People that I knew for a long time, people that I did know a bit, people that I have never in my life met. I did not even know who they were. And they were all so kind, expressing their sympathies, cheering me up or the team, or it was really great. And the thing that I realized at that moment is that there were so many people that were cheering on the sidelines for Yamo that I did not even notice, because you're just you're running. But people noticed us. They felt like, wow, this is cool what they're doing, or were even customers, because they had little kids. And that was really cool. But it was also tough, because then you realize, wow, we touched a lot of people's lives. And I still, to this day, it just happened to me last week. I was here at the ETH, met a couple of people, and then one lady was like, "Hey, are you from Yamo? Yeah, my kids grew up on your food." And I said, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And he said, "Yeah, this was the best. They would not eat anything but your stuff." And that is really cool, but also sad.
Yeah, but it's beautiful.
It is, yeah. Yeah. I'm happy what we did. It's
And you can be super proud as well.
Yeah, that's what people say.
Yeah. You're not feeling it, or
I feel like we had a very good run.
Yeah.
I feel like we have built something that everybody said will, in core, not work out. Now, of course, you can debate whether in the end it did not work out. I think it did work out. Of course, we also made mistakes. I think we were good in learning from mistakes. We still, in the end, we did it for the first time. It was all very novel. But I think we really, first of all, I know that we put in everything that we had and we could, both from an energy but also passion point of view. And sometimes, you just run out of luck. And that's how I see it.
How do you define success?
It's a very interesting question. For me, success is when people criticize and I know for myself that I've put in all that I had and I received positivity back from, for example, people that work with me or people that bought the product. That is for me success, because creating something where there was nothing before, that in itself is for me success. And of course, financial success is also something that at some point, of course, in a startup, it needs to happen. That's why investors invest. Now, that was not the case with us. But success in building something where there was nothing before, where you, over years, you employ people, you pay taxes. I mean, not corporate taxes, but in the end, like AHV and everything, and you make people happy. That is, for me, is a big win.
Well, it sounds like you were successful with that.
In those terms, yes.
I think you can be proud of that.
Yeah.
And now I know you also coach others.
Yeah.
What, in hindsight, would you say like are learnings that you now really want to give to other people?
There's different ones. On a business side, people always talk about product market fit. And, it's one of these evergreen topics in startup. And I would say it's for a reason. Because we also, at Yamo, we scaled certain things prematurely. We were lucky, but also maybe that was also a bit the downside, that we had the money to do it because we raised it.
Yeah.
So we were lucky to try things or scale things that we maybe should have not. So speaking about D2C, it was, we were constantly evolving and learning, like just let alone the packaging of how to ship something fresh. So many iterations in there. Because we had the financial resources to do it, we did it. If we would have not had those resources, we probably would have, I don't know, maybe even stopped doing it because we said, look, we cannot scale this now because it is too expensive or whatever. So that is something where I would say product market fit is, even though sometimes you cannot hear it anymore, it's still so crucial. And product market fit is different, has different aspects to it. So that's for sure one of these things. And then a second one is what comes with the scaling prematurely is also having too high cost base, costs are not just a number in a spreadsheet. It is something that you have built for some reason. So what I mentioned in the very early minutes of this podcast is that when you're in CPG, all of these large players, they have these gigantic infrastructures. They have warehouses and they have ERP systems that are directly connected to the retailers and to their suppliers and this and that. They have it all. When you want to play in that field or in that game, when you want to supply, we supplied 3,000 stores in all of Europe in 7 different markets. When you want to do this, you need a lot of that infrastructure as well. Because otherwise you're not playing in that game. Meaning that you have to build these things, but when you then want to scale down, or you then cannot grow anymore, you're stuck with all of that stuff. And you need people to maintain it. Because for every single sale that you make to a Deleuze in Belgium or to Carrefour in Spain, you need to be able to fulfill it. And that is very tough. But I think that is specific for CPG. It's very different. If we would have been like a software-only company, there would have been nothing that we would have needed technically. We could have just basically went into some sort of hibernation. As a CPG company, you cannot do this.
Are you intrigued, or do you wish to start another startup?
I could very well imagine. I have no idea so far, and also I know people that I could imagine working with. But I think when you're once infected with the entrepreneurial bug, it's kind of a life sentence.
There's no cure against it.
There's no cure against it, which is also good because, we need the entrepreneurs.
That's true. I agree. And that's why we're here as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, Tobias, what's next for you?
So what's next for me? As you mentioned, I'm currently coaching, advising companies that seek my advice in everything: fundraising, go-to-market, people management, hiring, structure, organization. I mean, those are all topics that I've done it all.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I do. Second is also I do consulting. That is not coaching and not this is paid. So I'm currently helping an American company come to Europe. It's my main thing right now. It's very, very enjoyable. It's also interesting to learn a lot from Americans, how they think, because they have a lot bigger picture on things. You know, they think bigger. That's also, I think, why they are also widely successful. Then, that's what I'm doing. I try to really support the ecosystem because the Swiss ecosystem has given me a lot.
Yeah.
Me personally, us as Yamo, we were very fortunate to be supported by some of the, I would say, kindest, but also best networked and most experienced founders in here. So, and I want to give back. There are certain things where I have no clue about, and there's other things where I would definitely say I can help you a lot. Yeah.
And before we finish our conversations, is there anything today at this point that you would like to give to our listeners?
I think first and foremost is setbacks are part of the process. They're part of life.
Yeah.
Also, Roger Federer has not won every single Grand Slam. What is important is, I think, life is 10% about what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. Somebody just told me that recently, and I think it is very, very wise. Because in the end, we all have it in our own hands. Some stuff, not everything, but these hands are very powerful, and we create something. And that's in the end what probably is my main message to the listeners is just do things. I mean, some things will not work out, others will. But if you don't try, the answer is always no, and
and you won't find out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And really, Europe, Switzerland, we need entrepreneurs. We need courage. We need, especially in these times, we need people to step up, also fail, but build things, and then things will be bright. I'm very, even though things look dire in some parts of the world right now, really dire, in the end, I'm very optimistic because us as a species, we've come a long way. My dad, he's a geologist, so he always has this, his timelines are always in the millions of years or even billions. And so when I would say, but the last couple of years, he's like, doesn't matter, life is so much older. And this perspective helps, it's because it makes you realize that yourself, you're not so important.
Yeah.
But you can still work on important things and create something that is very meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah, you can put your stamp
exactly
on the wall, but in the big picture, you're also just one of many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I encourage everybody to do this.
Yeah. That's a wonderful, very wise way to end this podcast. Thank you so much for sharing everything and for talking to me. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Marielle.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.